Chapter 7 to 9. After Goten swallowed the senzu bean, the pain all over his body disappeared instantly. The stamina and energy of his whole body also returned to the peak state. There is still 3 months of time left in the hyperbolic time chamber. I hope that after these 3 months are over, the time I can maintain the form of Ultra Instinct will be longer. After refreshing himself, Goten resumed his training. The opponents he faced now were not just as simple as Cell, because in addition to Cell, there were other very powerful beings in this universe. For example, the gods of destruction and the angels were simply unreachable existences for the current Goten. On top of the gods of destruction and the angels, there were more powerful figures such as the Omni King, Zeno, and the Grand Priest, not to mention the Omni King's personal guards and attendants. If those guys wanted to destroy a universe on a whim, it would be effortless to them. Therefore, he couldn't stop his training for a moment. Only by constantly training and becoming stronger could he be able to survive and maintain a foothold in this dangerous world. At this time on Earth, an extremely powerful energy signature suddenly appeared on the planet. In the sky, a lone figure appeared. He had green skin with black spots all over it, and on his back were a pair of black insect wings. This person was Cell in his perfect form. At this moment, Cell folded his hands on his chest, looking down at the city beneath his feet. Then he said to himself indifferently, "It's only been a few years since I left. I didn't expect that all the cities I destroyed have already been rebuilt. It's a pity that all their painstaking effort will ultimately go to waste at the end." To him, these humans were really stupid. Even knowing that the cities would definitely be destroyed again, they still chose to rebuild. Anyways, since he had now returned, he might as well completely destroy all the cities. After all, this universe was extremely vast. Planets better than Earth were in abundance. Even if this planet was destroyed, it would have no effect on him. "It's kind of boring here without Goku and Vegeta," Cell sighed again. This time, even after wandering in the universe for a full 8 years, he couldn't find any opponent who could match him. To be honest, he kind of missed the exciting feeling of battling with Goku and the others. After all, he too had Saiyan cells in his body, so he was very eager for a good battle. Then, let's start by destroying that small city. After sighing, Cell's gaze directly locked on to a small city in front of him. Since there was no opponent who could make him feel excited here, he might as well destroy this place. After all, that was what he was made for. With a slight lift of his finger, an energy ball instantly condensed on his fingertip. Then he just shot it towards his target. Rumble, accompanied by a deafening roar. The entire city was completely engulfed in a massive explosion. In an instant, a huge crater appeared on the ground. The entire city had long since evaporated. And at this time at the Capsule Corp, Krillin's expression suddenly froze. A solemn look immediately appeared on his face. "What happened, Krillin? What was that shock just now? Was it an earthquake?" After feeling the shaking of the ground, Bulma on the side hurriedly asked. There hadn't been any earthquake in West City for a long time. Why did the ground shake so violently all of a sudden? A bad feeling instantly arose in her heart. "It's Cell. He is back. I can already sense his energy." Krillin clenched his fists tightly. His tone and expression were extremely serious. That familiar feeling just now, it was absolutely unmistakable. It was definitely Cell, and that guy's strength seemed to be stronger than before. The shock just now obviously indicated that something had been destroyed, most probably a city. "What? Cell, is that monster back? What should we do? We have to do something." Hearing the name Cell, Bulma immediately panicked. There was horror and fear on her face, as well as anger. Because her parents, Vegeta and Trunks, were all killed by Cell, but she couldn't take revenge at all. Even now, it was very likely that the entire planet would be destroyed by Cell. That monster had no mercy at all. There's no other option right now. Before Goten comes out of the hyperbolic time chamber, I'll have to deal with Cell myself. A determined look appeared on Krillin's face. Just yesterday, he had Bulma transform his body using android technology. Although he hadn't gone through the full procedure, he had now become part android. This was the only way he could come up with to become stronger. After all, Android 17 and Android 18 were also ordinary people before they were transformed into androids. He could naturally be transformed as well, and after the transformation, his strength had become stronger. Although he was no longer a normal human being, as long as he could beat Cell, he was willing to pay any price. It could be regarded as atonement for his stupid mistake 8 years ago. Can you do it? Can you really stop that monster?" Bulma asked with a worried face. After all, Krillin's strength was really too weak. In the past, it was not at the same level as Vegeta and Goku. Even if he was transformed now, it was estimated that he would still not be able to defeat Cell. That monster could even kill Goku and Gohan. "I'm sorry, I alone can't stop Cell. The only thing I can do now is to buy some time and wait until Goten comes out of the hyperbolic time chamber. The only person on Earth that can stop Cell is probably Goten." Krillin shook his head, he was very self-aware of his power. Even after transforming into a part android, his strength could not be compared to Cell. That guy was an existence that even Super Saiyan 2 Gohan couldn't defeat. The only thing he could do now was buy some more time for Goten. Okay, Bulma, I'll go first. After speaking to Bulma, Krillin disappeared from the Capsule Corp in a flash. At this time, Cell was still admiring his masterpiece while floating in midair. Looking at the huge crater that had appeared under his feet, he had to admit that it really felt good. It was a pity that he couldn't hear the desperate screams of those weak humans. It was really a shame. So, which city should it be next? Cell glanced around, and the corner of his mouth slowly raised in an evil grin. After scanning back and forth, he finally fixed his gaze West City. Then, it shall be your turn next. Scream in despair, you bugs. After the cold words fell, an energy ball condensed on his fingertips again, and just at the moment when he was about to shoot the energy ball. Swish! Like a ghost, a figure appeared behind Cell in an instant. Then he directly kicked Cell's back. Bang! Cell didn't have time to react. The kick sent him flying a few hundred feet away. His body crashed against a mountain heavily before stopping. What? A look of disbelief suddenly appeared on Cell's face. That kick just now was really heavy, and he didn't sense any major energy fluctuations before it suddenly appeared. All the stronger fighters on the Earth had been killed by him, so how could there still be such a strong person? With a surprised gaze, Cell looked up into the air. Then he saw a familiar figure. A big bald head was glistening in the sunlight. Baldy? Is this a joke? How could that coward muster such power just now? Cell was even more surprised after seeing Krillin appearing in midair. Because Krillin was just an ordinary human warrior. No matter how hard he tried, he could never compare to a Saiyan. And 8 years ago, this guy was ridiculously weak, and his courage wasn't even worth mentioning. How did this coward become so powerful in just 8 years? Although he was unguarded just now, he definitely was not something that Krillin could just kick away. Cell, you bastard. Today I will definitely kill you. I'll avenge Goku, Gohan, and the others, and I'll make up for all of my past mistakes. Krillin's eyes were extremely determined, and he no longer had any timidity or cowardice at this moment. To him now, death didn't seem like such a big deal. In fact, 8 years ago, he should have gone to the other world with Goku and the others. Now it was time to settle the score with Cell. Oh, I really didn't expect this. It seems that these few years without my presence has not only increased your strength, but also your courage. Now you even dare to act arrogantly in front of me? I can clearly remember how you crawled like an insect in front of me in fear 8 years ago. Cell got up slowly, wiping the small bruise on his face, and said in an almost amusing manner. Krillin just now did make him feel a bit of pain, but with such an attack, it was impossible to cause any serious injury to him. Bastard. Shut up. Thinking of the scene 8 years ago, Krillin was furious. Indeed, he was too weak and timid 8 years ago. Faced with Cell who killed all his companions, he didn't even have the courage to face him. This feeling tormented him for 8 years. Whoosh! After a roar, the next second, Krillin rushed out again, swinging his fist at Cell. Swish! Swish! Punch after punch, blow after blow. He just went crazy, letting it all out. However, Krillin was definitely no match for Cell. Even if he became a half-android, this gap couldn't be narrowed by much. With just some slight movements of his body, Cell completely dodged all of Krillin's attacks. It looks like you only know how to attack with sneak attacks. With just this much power and speed, you still want to fight me? Cell folded his hands on his chest, taunting Krillin with a smirk. It was undeniable that this little bald head was indeed stronger than before. If he was still in his semi-perfect form from back then maybe this Baldy might even be able to defeat him. But now, the gap between the two of them was worlds apart. This monster. Is the gap between us still that big? Krillin gritted his teeth tightly, but his speed didn't slow down at all. Since he had been transformed into a half-android by Bulma, he now had almost unlimited amount of energy. So, like android number 17 and number 18, he had unlimited stamina. Swish, swish, swish. Krillin kept swinging his fists. His strength and speed were increased to the extreme, but the gap between them was too big for him to be able to hurt Cell. This continued on for several minutes until Cell lost interest in the fight. You overconfident idiot. Do you still not see how big of a gap is between us? I'll let you clearly realize that no matter what you become, no matter what kind of training you have undergone, you will never be my opponent. Cell's indifferent voice meant that he was no longer interested in this game. The moment his voice fell, he directly grabbed Krillin's fist. The moment his fist was grabbed, Krillin lost the strength to resist. It was like being clamped by huge iron clamps. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break free at all. In the next second, Cell directly flung Krillin's body away. Rumble. The impact was accompanied by deafening roar. 7 to 8 hills collapsed one after another, directly turning into rubble. Boom. In the end, Krillin's body was embedded on a 100-foot mountain peak. A look of extreme pain suddenly appeared on his face. Although he transformed into a half-android with unlimited energy, his body was still human in essence. It was just that an energy reactor that could continuously keep generating energy was installed in his body. Even with unlimited energy, his body was still of flesh and blood and could feel pain. Whoosh! Before Krillin could recover, cells appeared again in front of him. He grabbed Krillin's face and smashed it against the hard rocks. He didn't just stop there, but continued to move, dragging his face along with him. On the rocky walls of the hill, a shocking path was forcefully carved. Wherever it went, it left a trail of bright red blood. After being dragged through the rocky terrain, Krillin's body was covered with injuries. Blood kept dripping from his body. However, Cell was not ready to let Krillin go so easily. After all, in his opinion, Krillin was a toy that could arouse his interest, even if it was a little bit. It would be a pity to kill him so quickly. After he finished smashing Krillin's face, Cell punched his abdomen heavily. PFTT. A mouthful of blood spurted out directly from Krillin's mouth, and a huge crater also appeared on the surface beneath him. With Krillin as the center, the cracks spread in all directions. Boom. Bang. Bang. Boom. Cell kept throwing one punch after another in a row, not showing any mercy. Krillin was in a state of shock. His consciousness was a little fuzzy. With such a huge force, every punch brought him immense pain. The crater expanding around him served as a stark reminder of the force behind Cell's assault. I'm sorry. Goten, I can't hold on anymore. Goku, I'm sorry. I still can't protect your son. Krillin felt extremely guilty. 8 years ago, he was unable to do anything while everyone died. Even the fact that Cell could attain a perfect form, he held a great responsibility for it. Unexpectedly, 8 years later, he still couldn't help Goku's son. He couldn't even buy him a little more time. Bang! Rumble! Cell punched out again. This time, the entire hill was completely shattered, and Krillin's body was also sent flying. It slammed heavily on the ground hundreds of meters away. I'm sorry, everyone. When Dend and Mr. Popo looked at this scene from the lookout, their expressions were extremely solemn. Seeing Krillin being tortured like this, the two clenched their fists tightly. However, they couldn't do anything to help. Their strength was too weak. Cell could probably kill them with a single attack. Krillin-san. So cruel. If it continues like this, he'll definitely be killed by Cell. Mr. Popo said with a blank face. It seems that we have no other choice but to let Goten out of the room a bit earlier. Den frowned tightly and finally made up his mind. Even though it hadn't been 2 days yet, and Goten should still be able to train for about a month, the current situation was special. If this continued, Krillin would definitely be killed. The two of them were the only fighters left on the Earth. There was no room to make any mistakes. Perhaps if the two of them joined forces, they might be able to defeat Cell. After making up his mind, Dend walked directly towards the hyperbolic time chamber. At this time, Goten was still training desperately. For almost 2 years, he never trained in form of a Super Saiyan. For a Saiyan, the basic combat power was of utmost importance. In these 2 years of harsh training, he had also achieved some good results. His basic combat power had increased by several times compared to before. Creak. After the door of the hyperbolic time chamber was opened, Goten stopped his practice and looked towards the door. Dend walked in with a serious face. What's wrong? Dend, has something happened? Goten asked. Judging by Den's expression, it was obvious that something big had happened. Chances were that Cell had returned. It was just that the chamber was in a different dimension from that of Earth, and he couldn't feel anything from the outside at all. Goten, Cell is back. Krillin-san was fighting him, but he can't hold on any longer. Although I know that I shouldn't bother you, there's nothing I can do now, maybe only you can stop Cell. Den's face was still incomparably solemn when he said that. If even Goten was unable to stop Cell, then the planet had no hope for survival. Is that so? Well, I'm almost done training. Leave this Cell to me. Goten clenched his fist, with excitement in his eyes. In these past 2 years, he had been training alone, without Ant's strong opponent. To be honest, for Scions who belonged to a warrior race, this kind of life was very boring. Battle was in their blood, and in the past 2 years, his basic combat power had improved qualitatively. This made him feel that even if he couldn't become Super Saiyan 2, he could still beat Cell. It was just in time. He could loosen up his body after that long session of relentless training. Let me help you with your recovery. Dend hurried over. Then, he pressed his palm against Goten's chest. A gentle and soothing energy instantly spread throughout his body, and his physical strength quickly recovered. The tattered combat uniform on his body also looked brand new. This was the special ability of the Namekians. Thanks, Dend. After Goten thanked him, he walked out of the hyperbolic time chamber. Then, his body jumped up, instantly turning into a golden flash, and he disappeared from the sight of Dend and Mr. Popo. At this time, Krillin had been ravaged to such an extent that he was almost unrecognizable. Cell's foot stepped hard on Krillin's chest, which had completely collapsed. His eyes began to blur, and it wasn't that hard to deduce that he wouldn't survive for much longer. This is so dull. I've lost all interest in you. You can go to hell now, Krillin. You should thank me for being able to send you to your old friends right away. A bloodthirsty sneer appeared on Cell's face, and a purple light suddenly appeared in his hand. He then aimed it at Krillin's chest. Just when he was about to release the attack, he suddenly felt a powerful force rushing towards him at an extremely fast speed. What? Whose energy is this? After feeling that powerful ki, Cell's expression changed drastically. Besides Krillin, was there still such a strong person on Earth? And this energy was much stronger than that Krillin. Whoosh! While Cell was still surprised, a figure instantly appeared from the right. Boom! Cell's face was hit hard again, and his body was smashed against the ground again. Go! Goten! After seeing the figure that appeared, a smile slowly appeared on Krillin's face. However, his vitality was continuing to diminish. Krillin-san, eat this senzu bean. Goten landed lightly on the ground and fed Krillin one of the beans. Then he stood up and locked his eyes on Cell. Cell, having recovered, also stood up quickly. His right thumb wiped his cheek. This time, the attack hurt even more than before. Just as he turned around and saw that familiar face, he was shocked. Wah! What? Son Goku. No, this can't be Goku. Could it be Goku's son? Cell looked at Goten in astonishment. This face was almost exactly the same as Goku. Even their hairstyles were identical. Except this guy was just a kid. The only possibility was that this brat was Goku's son. I've been waiting for you for a long time, Cell. Goten looked at Cell calmly and said lightly.